Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. Incidentally, thank you for your remarks regarding our talk last week. We've both received encouraging remarks and how much people have enjoyed it. What I'd like to add today is this, that in our growth experience, we go through the 3 points that I pointed out last week, but we do it in a less group way. For example, we go from details and numbers to until we become like one whole center, one being. For example, the three where and are, number one is that most people are living daily life, going about their business, and also thinking that this is very real and very important, but they forget the truth of their being. Number two, we become very involved in our own selves, getting to know ourselves. For example, number two is comprised of astrology, numerology, enneagrams, etc., etc. But what these does is that we get to know ourselves as if we are totally separate from one another. But what we are adding to ourselves is not real knowledge, but rather more stuff about who we are. In other words, when you see yourself as an Aquarian, for example, as I am, or see yourself number 4, or whatever you classify yourself as, you begin to believe that this is who you are. But in truth, you are not any classification at all. You are just a being in totality. This is when we come to understand number 3. Number 3 is that we are the one looking at the whole picture. In other words, um, number 3, we can call it I am. I am the totality, I am the wholeness, without referring to a personal attribute, to a personal definition. In other words, there is only one of us. We are the self, oneness, wholeness, completeness. In this definition of who we are, we get lost in the details. And so what happens is that we move to the heart, to the head completely. What we need to do is move to the heart. And there's a great deal of difference. The heart sees the totality, sees the feeling, whereas the head sees many details, many numbers, many events, etc. So as we move from great number to smaller number, we get more and more in touch with the one that we truly are. And now these are likened to the three examples given by Ken Wapnick in the three categories. There's the camel, the lion, and the child. Yeah, I'm taking my time now. Okay, the camel are the first people, everyday life people, who forget the totality of their being, and they get lost in details. Number two has to do with the with the personal attachments, personal details of their who they think they are. And so we get caught in who I think I am, how I should behave, how I should think, how I should be. Then number three, we realize that the person we thought we were never really existed. It was always I am. Every one of us is I am, the totality itself. And it is here that we begin to feel the heart of our being. The heart of our being also refers to love. And this is when we see that love is all that there is. Love is the only truth. You want to add something to that?
Yeah, when you said the third stage, that we're only the one, what is it that would take someone, what does it take to go from the second to the third stage? Somebody might be searching, they're doing all this self-development and all, they understand themselves, psychology, or maybe they've started to go into spirituality, but what takes them to that point where they're willing to see the non-dual reality?
Well, to take a jump from number 3 to number 1 would be impossible in one lifetime. It is not possible. It is a very slow process, because first you have to understand that you are really not as individual as you think you are. You're not as personal as you think you are. In fact, when you look around and all the people around you, everybody thinks the same. But eventually, as you get to know more and more of who and what you are, which gets you back to the second stage, you begin to see you're more than just an astrological sign or an enneagram or a number, and as in numerology, etc. Because these are all, although they have some validity in them in getting to know yourself as a person, yet in truth, they do not exist. Because in truth, the only thing that exists is the oneness of totality, the oneness of being. So therefore, you come to the last one, which is the child, normally known as the child, innocent, lovable child. And it sees clearly because it sees from the heart and not the mind. It doesn't see details, but it sees the total picture by feeling it. And it is through this feeling that we begin to feel the totality of who we are. Not the one in the many, but there's only the one seeing wholeness. For example, when we say there's only one who is being aware, what that means is that if there are 100 people looking at a flying saucer, they always see the same flying saucer, one awareness. Well, similarly, no matter how large the group is, the awareness is always the same one. My awareness and your awareness, not what you're aware of, but the awareness itself is one awareness. It is this one awareness which is the heart. And this one awareness is also known as love. And this is why when we talk about God, which is the totality of our being, we call it love, unconditional love. And so what we're learning is not so much in the personal sense, but more in the total picture of who and what we are. Not only we find ourselves happier and more at peace, but all fear, especially of death, will simply be washed away, and we end up in more ecstatic knowing of the truth. Yeah.
The gist of what you were saying was so beautiful, because you said as we start to move from the mind into the heart, as we start to feel the words more inside our heart, as we open up to accepting the truth, to considering the possibility of the truth, then that love, that feeling of love, is just there permanently.
It's there permanently. Our true nature is that very love. In fact, we're born through love. And so we go from the process of multidimensional being, so complex, and we move to greater and greater simplicity, but we do not lose the awareness. In fact, we become even more aware of totality, so that even time and space no longer exist, especially when we realize we are spirit and we go beyond the body into the spirit, which is the truth. Then we see how grand and total and unlimited, and the possibilities are endless. So with each step, we expand, not minimize. So this is the paradox. Even though we're in number, we're growing smaller and smaller, yet in truth, we are getting larger and larger because we are embracing the totality, the wholeness of being. You see? So people become afraid of thinking that, my goodness, if I am nobody, if I'm not a person and I'm lost in this maze, then I'm lost. But in truth, you're not only not lost, but you are everywhere. You are the totality itself. You are the wholeness. You are the true love of being, which is unconditional, which is joy, which is really heaven itself. In fact, when I had my NDE, which was twice in my life, I experienced a love and joy I never thought was possible. And so, but this is the truth of our being covered out by thinking that we are the shell we portray to other people. When we begin to understand that it's nothing more than just a name given to a form, we realize that you're not the form. You are not an Aquarian. You are not a Pisces. You are not a number 4. You are not an Enneagram 7, etc., etc. You actually are the very center of life itself. You are I am, period. And how that manifests, it cannot be explained, but we can learn by getting less and less complicated. When the numbers get less and less, the mind starts falling into the heart. The heart is one. The heart is being. But the heart is a totality. Although the mind cannot understand it, there's no way, yet the heart knows it already. So the deeper we go, the deeper the joy, the peace, the love, the happiness, the completeness.
That's incredible. In the Course, it says forgiveness is the means we go between that recognition. And there's barriers that keep us from seeing that we're this one or from considering it. So it's very difficult to go between stage 2 to stage 3, or even to go from, or the mind to the heart, or from the lion to the child. It's
a very slow process of recognition all the time. But in that recognition, we're becoming simpler and simpler and simpler. Yeah.
And forgiveness.
And at the same time, expanding more and more from our seeing. But we do not see multiplicity, we see oneness of being. And that is the highest unconditional love.
And if we're not at that stage yet and we're wondering where the blocks are, one of them is the one you described as the mental block. And it's not just that it's the mental block, there's specific thoughts that perhaps are passing through our head that we're still believing in to a degree.
That's very good, yes. When the best way to move forward is when you are in the mind, you are so caught in details that you're totally mixed up, often perplexed, often even depression can get there very easily because you get so mixed up. You don't know whether you're coming or going. You try to figure out everything. When you get into number 2, which is getting to know yourself, you begin to see that it is this ego, because after all, what is astrology? Okay, the sign that you are just an ego. What is an Enneagram? The totality of your ego and how it expresses. So you see, all the time you're identifying with an ego that doesn't really exist, but something to identify something, a being. And then you begin to move beyond it and see that there's a depth which you automatically begin to know very, very slowly, but it will come in moments of realization. And each realization, there's a joy, there's a greater zest in living, because You become more like a child who knows how to play, how to enjoy, how to be itself. That's why it's called the child, incidentally.
And that's where it's all unconditional love and the understanding of oneness.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. The child is the
Burt, in our everyday life, Burt, in our everyday life, I find that we either, reach the awareness of oneness, or we be distracted into the details of life.
That's right.
How can we achieve awareness simultaneously? How, live our everyday life, work on our, tasks while being aware of the oneness? Is that possible?
Well, it is possible, again, very, very slowly, because in the beginning we got so caught in details. The mind is such a complex thing, and it keeps identifying with the world. You read the newspaper and you believe it. You see the news of what's going on around the world and you begin to believe it. And you bring that picture home to you as if this is what's happening now, even to you. You identify with it. You cannot help that. That is the nature of the mind. The mind is very hypnotic. When you begin to see that what is happening is all part of the problematic process of simplification, because that's all we are. Returning to the child means becoming more simple in our everyday life. Then we begin to get to the heart. The heart opens up. It becomes sensitive. It becomes open. It becomes compassionate. It begins to understand things it never understood before. In the beginning, you see a flower, you might kick it on the street or even on a tree. But in the number two, when you get to know yourself, you begin to see what is holding you back and what is not. The thoughts that keep jamming in and blocking you from seeing the truth. This jamming is, you begin to transcend it by moments of meditation, even prayer, by moments of stillness, by actually enjoying the beautiful things that are all around us, but we do not see. The beauty of a child, the beauty of a dog, a puppy, the beauty of a flower, the beauty of grass. This is when the heart begins to open. And the moment the heart opens to the sensitivity and beauty of what is, the mind gets less and less active and less personal. So this is the process. And then when you get to the one, you begin to understand things you never understood before. There are people in the world, I think as much as 40 or 50%, who are agnostic, who are atheistic, actually, who don't believe there is a God. You cannot blame them. You cannot go against them. That's where they're at. But as you move deeper and deeper into that I-ness of yourself, into that I, you begin to see that you yourself are the one.
Yeah.
This is
What's really interesting with his question is what you mentioned in your book is negative unconscious belief. So there's this negative unconscious belief, a silly one at that, that's in our psyche that's somehow keeping us from, when we go to do our grocery stores, or we go to do our grocery shopping, or when we go to do this task, or we go to work, that somehow oneness doesn't exist when I'm going to work. But that's a hidden belief system. So we have thoughts like that are in there, and we have to catch them, as though reality or the truth can't be the truth all the time. It is the truth all the time.
The truth is there because it is all the time, or rather because it is the truth. You see, but the reason we cannot see the truth is because we've identified so much with the numberless state of our being, with the teeming information going in and out, that you actually don't know whether you're coming or going. This is the frustration. So the most important part in the beginning is the mind. Get in touch with the mind. The mind is practically always negative, believe it or not, because it's been crammed with so much information, so much news, so much happening around the world, and you make it all personal. So naturally you get caught. But when you begin to understand it, you begin to see that this is all just stuff in the mind. In the moment, you are okay. In the moment when you're sleeping, you're okay. And so slowly develop sensitivity, and from the mind, you start to move into the heart. You move into the heart when you're not so caught in mundane things and egoic things and personal things, but in the things that bring beauty, music, laughter, joy, playing, learning to enjoy that which is all around you by actually seeing it from the heart. The heart is the sensitive part of us that understands. And as you move more and more into the heart, that's how the growth happens. And then until finally you become the one.
So this moving into the heart is it's simultaneously occurring with our giving up worldly goals, more or less. Because we have to have one prime goal. Those goals interfere. Because our goal is a negative unconscious belief of saying, if I had that, I'd be happy, as opposed to being happy now in the state of being.
The more we get caught in daily life, in the world, the more disturbed we become. When I was in Toronto, I visited 2 mental homes because I wanted to understand. I was very interested in psychology at the time. I wanted to understand what makes people crazy. And it was very easy. It all starts with thinking you're an ego, and which is not the truth of your being, but it can be helped in the beginning until you go deeper and deeper and see that the state of you, when you're happy, when you're peaceful, when you're at peace with yourself, there are moments when you actually find joy. That joy is the child in you. That joy is the moment of you. Think of a puppy. Think of the smallest, most beautiful thing in nature, the bird, all the things that are around us. But that's just part of what you do to quiet the mind. The quieter the mind, the more you move into the heart. The more you move into the heart, the more you begin to see your totality, and at the same time, less caught you get into it. Because you begin to see with the eyes of a child, with innocence, with beauty. You're not so personal anymore, not so caught in your immediate environment. When you're caught in your immediate environment, you are practically always feeling sorry for yourself. Easily depressed, easily angered, easily displaced by that energy. When you move into the heart, yes, you cry more often, it's true. You feel more compassion, yes, it's true. But at the same time, it's purifying that which the mind brought on. And the more you purify it, the more innocent you become, the more gentle and sweeter you become. And that will be your true nature, who you really are. And that is the whole process of growth.
So this process, is this process a one-way street? Are we going to stay there in our heart, or does it work like a cycle that some circumstances would trigger it back to trigger you?
The triggers from the past, they come from the mind. And if the mind identifies with them, then yes, we begin to lose some of the joy that we have gathered, but that doesn't mean that we are regressing. Because if we become aware of what the mind is doing all the time by living in the past, and incidentally, you know what the past is? It doesn't exist. It's gone, it's finished. See, it isn't there. In truth, there is no time. So you're not even concerned about the future, which is the same like the past. There's only this moment. So only through the awareness of this moment, you become simpler and simpler. simpler to the point where, again, we're going back to innocence, we're going back to childlikeness, joy, and yet having clarity. And this is what happens. Now, it's true, sometimes we can fall back, but it's usually because there was some lesson that we haven't actually mastered yet. And so, are there past lives? Oh, yes, yes. But the past lives do not really exist. Rather, because let me put it this way: past life is like a dream. You know, you dream at night, and you dream being this or being that. You see, that's what it is. You have a different form, a different basis, but it's still you. You, the spirit, is always. You've never been born and you never die. But you keep going from one state to another until you learn simplicity, until you learn that everything is one in a whole, the oneness. This, again, is the heart, but it cannot understand it. The mind cannot understand it. The heart will begin to feel it. And then you begin to live it more and more as the more innocent you become.
And that's why forgiveness is the method.
And yes,
because we see it in the face of our forgiven brothers.
Yes.
So it's not just a mind idea. It's not just oh, now I understand the dynamic. It's now I know it to be true because my heart's connected to my brother's heart when I practice forgiveness.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Forgiveness is like a master key to awareness, right?
Yes, thank you for saying
beautiful
that.
Way. That's beautiful. The master key to
because
awareness.
if you find yourself guilty and complicated, and you get very complicated in the mind, you get so frenzied, sometimes you feel you're going crazy. Okay, so but what if you take a deep breath at the moment and you really realize that you're not the mind. In truth, you are the heart. You're always the heart. You are the core, the essence of being. And so by that very realization that the complication is only existing in your mind, not in you. It seems to be in you because you're identifying with it because you think you are your thoughts. But the moment you begin to see that they're just thoughts, because if you think something different, it's gone. That forgiveness brings you deeper and deeper into the childlike state, into the oneness state, you see? And that's how growth happens. And we're moving closer and closer to that beauty and love and joy and happiness that is our true nature. The promise of the truth. Oh, you know, I just have to say it, and now I feel tears coming to my eyes because it's so beautiful. There is one word to always keep in mind. One word. That one word is love. Unconditional love. When you feel love in you, you're in your heart. When you are in your heart, you're closer to the truth of your being. It's as simple as that. And to let that happen more and more often, the more you love, the more the love grows. But itself, love doesn't really grow. What happens is that you're seeing more and more of the truth, which you are. Before you thought you were just a body among billions of people. Now you begin to see the billions of people as just like dust. It's just like, flakes. But as you move deeper and deeper, you still retain that. That is, don't try to understand it, please. Your heart will know it as you move deeper and deeper into the heart. And then you'll begin to see that you are this very oneness itself. When you have learned all the lessons you need to learn and you've returned to childlikeness, okay, then you don't need to go from life to life anymore. You are in that eternal space called, I call it heaven, okay, which is unconditional love.
So when we asked,
and that very capacity,
like you say it do you go back and forth between recognizing the oneness and being back into the sense of being a separate person?
It does fluctuate quite a lot, yes, because the conditioning is so strong. The memory is so strong that we actually believe it. And remember, all you ever get, which is monster-like, which is devilish, are memories. It's true, they're beliefs. Memories and beliefs are the numbers that need to be minimized and extinguished eventually. It was Buddha who said one time, which is an incredible statement. He said, until you overcome and master all your beliefs, you shall not be a Buddha. You shall not attain the being, in other words. But of course, it's not something that can be done. But the process of growth is to understand that in this moment itself, you are already who and what you are. Why? Because there's no time and space. In truth, we live in time and space, yes, but the truth of you is beyond time and space. And when you allow yourself to be this moment, you are closer to the truth. As you begin to rejoice in that capacity, in that moment that you felt like a realization, you were in the heart, it felt so good because of that love you felt. What happens is now it increases. It will start coming in your dreams. It will start coming in the friends you keep. It will start coming in the things that you share until only the heart is left, the heart of being. And the heart of being seems to be something that we can't even begin to imagine. But it's not something you're going to achieve, but you sort of become it. When you've mastered, it sounds so fantastic. You get moments when you feel this oneness at times. You feel it completely. And when you feel it completely, you know that which nobody can teach you. You cannot read it from a book, but your heart already knows it. Did you know that your heart already knows the full truth? Already knows it right now. Yeah. But if you try to think about
it's confusing we're just confusing ourselves, right?
That's right. And it's very simple, really. It's very simple.
I was gonna say that the very capacity to love is the source of a healing power, right?
Yes. And that's what healing is. You see, when we begin to heal, we're not healing something monstrous like cancer, like this, like that. It's amazing. I've been reading a lot of stories about people who realize their true nature, and then they experience a miracle, and they heal. What healed them? No doctor can tell you. No, but the moment you forgive yourself completely, the healing starts happening. And when the healing starts happening, you're moving closer and closer to that which you have always been. But you've identified so much with the body and the complicated life that you had in your mind that you thought you were that. And you give it a name, Burt Harding. You see, but there is no Burt Harding. You see, yeah, there is only this laughter, this moment of silence, this moment of looking.
Beautiful.
Great. Do we have any questions from Seda, Trina, or Turaj? Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask the question in person.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
It's Sejla.
I'm so excited to. My name is Shayla. I'm in Toronto right now. I live in Toronto, and originally in Herzegovina, Eastern Europe. I've been following Burt for many years now, and through and channel and so on. And I just wanted to say how excited I am to be able to
Oh,
be part
yeah,
of the
thank you.
Zoom meet.
Mm.
Thank you, Burt, for all the teachings. I want to say that, before to identify completely with my thoughts. And that led me, I was many times deeply depressed. And then I started, gradually learn how to observe and not identify with the thoughts. And that was the key to the healing, to my own healing. So I wanted to
Wonderful.
thank you. You have been big part of my healing journey.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Oh, lovely.
You are welcome. Thank you, guys. Suzy, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, son.
Complement each other wonderfully.
Yeah. Thank you for your sharing.
Hey, hello there.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I wanted to say thank you to these this hour that I get on Wednesday to listen to you guys. So thank you for that.
And who am I talking to? I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to
didn't hear.
ask you,
Laura.
Laura. Okay.
Oh,
Laura.
I'm sorry. This is Laura.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I
nice
wanted
to
to
meet
ask
you, Laura.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you too. Every once in a while you talk about little bits about your NDE, and I've heard you say that you didn't want to come back.
That's right.
And so I'm wondering why do you keep coming back?
It's sometimes, yeah. Oh, that's a very good question. Many people are told to go back because they haven't finished what they needed to finish. We're here on Earth. They call Earth is the hard school, the hard school of knocks. By being here, we actually gain a lot of benefit. Benefit in the sense of patience, understanding, clarity, etc. So it's not, I didn't have a choice. And for example, in my second NDE, I was at the hospital, I was in the light. I never knew there was such beauty and love and joy. It's beyond imagination. But then all of a sudden, there was a thought that crossed my mind, and I was still thinking. There were still thoughts, and there were no disturbing thoughts. But I knew that the woman I came with, which was my wife then, I saw how desperately unhappy she looked at my body on the gurney. And that one look that she gave my body brought me back into the body. And it wasn't my choice to return. I wasn't forced there. It's just that a part of me went there because there was a lot I needed to learn to perfect. So everything that happens usually is meant to happen anyway. We just have to allow it and learn from it.
It's a really interesting question because in today's lesson in the Course in Miracles, it actually touches on NDEs and people coming back. And it also talks about one of the common thoughts or beliefs we have that prevent us from awakening and recognizing that we're just the oneness. It says, but healing is the gift to those who are prepared to learn there is no world and can accept that lesson now. Their readiness will bring the lesson to them in some form which they can recognize and understand. And then it goes on to say, some see it suddenly on the point of death and return to teach it. So the Course touches on NDEs here and how, because we're all one, there's that sudden
That sudden?
That sudden seeming return to the
Yes,
dream world
yes.
to share it with others.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, that's right, that's right.
Mhm.
Many of us have been brought back because we had something to show others that there is a world that's so beautiful, and we are immortal creatures. We've never been born, and we shall never know death, never. Death is just like going from one door to another. So when we live the life of spirit, which means, of course, living from the heart, which is love, then you begin to get closer and closer until you complete it. Yeah, there's been over about 15 million people brought back from death back to life to learn their lessons in the past years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the East have been studied. The whole thing is so beautiful, though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard Anita Morjani talk about how when she had her NDE and she was describing how it felt like she was merging with the consciousness of her father, her brother, etc.
That's right.
And she could, so it wasn't necessarily with another, it was just the knowing of being that.
Yes, that's right.
I've always said everyone should have an essence in their life, but how do we get that without bringing on the NDE?
Well, sometimes there's another thing too, that life itself is already arranged for us. In other words, we have a moment when we need to go on, to go home. You see, until then, we need lessons to learn. We never know when the time is, but everything is so perfect. Everything is done so orchestrated that the moment you start to trust the highest power there is, that very trust itself, that very surrender itself will make you so joyous that you won't even need any, anything at the moment. You just surrender to it.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's the goal of the course, is to get you to realize that's the case now, not through waiting till the end of your life and
That's
dying,
right.
but
Yeah.
right now.
Right now, yes.
Right now. And that's what forgiveness essentially does.
Yeah.
As eventually it takes us to the point where we realize that what we're seeing as a world is actually just an illusion, and that we're just the oneness.
That's right. And actually, thank you for saying that. That is truth. What we're actually transcending is the illusion that we've so caught in. We're thinking we need to struggle, we need to fight, we need to go against this. Life is so hard, etc., etc. But actually, these are all lessons that we need to learn and eventually accept. And then when you accept it, then of course you graduate.
Hi, this is Turaj.
Hi, Turaj.
Turaj? Is that Turaj?
You see Turaj's face.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Turaj. Oh, nice to hear you.
How are you?
Oh, good.
Yeah. My question is, if we are already one and the oneness is perfect and knows everything, so why do we need to learn things or to come here and learn something and learn love or other things? Because this nature already knows everything. So
it's true. It's true. Yeah, our being is complete and knows everything, but we don't know that we know it yet. I know it sounds like a game, but there's a part in us, since we are carrying a body and carrying a particular life, we still somehow or other not completely clear. And so we need some brushing up, some polishing to do it. I don't have all the answers, Turaj. I wish I had, but I know that what I'm going through is needed. And so I do it with love. I give it my heart, knowing that everything is already okay anyway. You know, nothing can happen. I mean, you can get into an accident and die, but what is death, really? You know, there is no death, there is nothing. So sometimes you might say,
Yeah,
well,
well, if there is no we, there is no, because we are oneness.
that's right.
There is no separation, there is no, and this oneness is already perfect.
That's right.
So in this we is already the oneness. So oneness is already know everything. So what does it need as anything if we are the oneness and oneness is perfect? Why the oneness needs to learn anything in form of us, in form of separation and in form of individuals and
yeah,
this
I
world.
understand your question, and it's an intelligent one. But the thing is this, that we already are perfect. We already one right now. But somehow or other, there's something that we still need to perfect. We need to learn. We might not know what it is. And life itself is perfect. It doesn't make any mistakes. We think it does. But right now, our mind is trying to figure it out. Know this, that wherever you are, you need to be. And to accept that fully and completely. And whenever you feel anything bothering you, forgive it. That's all we can do. But as you do that, patience is giving you, more love is giving you, and more things happen in your life that will make you feel more joyous and complete.
See, that question I had for many years myself, and it took me a long time to find any kind of an answer that satisfied me. And it was the Course's explanation that finally satisfied. It's not that we're being penalized. It's not that we were put here to learn. It's not that oneness had to do something to be better oneness. The Course offers the idea up that there was this tiny mad idea of what would it be like to be separate. And oneness, being totally free and unable to pick and choose what it wanted, wondered what that would be like. And in that, it created instantly a sense of guilt due to the separation or the choice to leave, to abandon this oneness, to have a separate existence, which of course isn't possible. So, but this is the Course's explanation. And what happened is that this tremendous guilt became so terrifying in the conscious mind. At that point, there was only consciousness, that the entire manifest universe was projected out as a place to hide. And basically, what the setup is, I'm trying to make my guilt be out there. So I'm hiding in a world where, you know, my neighbors are guilty, you know, where there's people killing people in the ghettos, because that makes me innocent. So the whole world is a giant setup of this projection. And what's happened is we believed it, but it never happened. And so that's the mistake. That's the final thought. We're trying to get back to that one thought of belief, or the recognition that being separation isn't possible. Now we hear it over and over again, and it's like the 5 stages. You know, you have to first consider it. You have to seriously consider the possibility that this is true. If you're not willing to consider you're not a body and the world's an illusion, and there's no separation, then you're never going to get there. But it starts with the little willingness to consider that possibility as true, and to be deeply personal with yourself and your own personal experience. All I know is, for me, it's the only thing that answered that question. I've heard the idea that it's oneness playing with itself, or if that's the case, why would it be this particular form? This is a world of guilt. It's a world of projection. All our TV shows and books are all about that. If this was the full gamut of oneness being able to experience itself, then there would be a whole lot more going on than just this. But this is what's seemingly going on here. And that's the guilt that we have to get past in order to forgive ourselves, in which case we then remember that we remain as one.
Yeah, and the most wonderful thing to hear is that despite all this explanation and this complexity, in this truth, in this very moment, we are already okay. We're already perfect, really, you know. And as we allow it more and more time and silence, meditation, whatever, we come closer and closer. But these questions are necessary. These questions are always there. It's part of the process, you know.
Yeah.
It sounds like the heart will see everything as perfect, but the mind is impossible to see perfection.
Very good.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. And the struggle
And
will always
also,
be
I
part of it.
really read our mind. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Burt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, what you said was perfect. It was very good. Yeah. Yeah. That's where love has to come in, really. In other words, the love is already in us,
Yeah.
but to have enough love to accept that there's an intelligence. And when we say there's an intelligence, there is, we are this intelligence, actually. We can trust it and to be patient with it. In time, everything is going to be as it must be. I don't know what else to say, really, except that I've learned to go along with whatever happens in the moment.
Yeah.
One thing which is very hard to take, and I know that people don't want to hear it. This world that we are in now is not the truth. This world is more like a dream. Some people will say, well, it's a nightmare. Once we accept it, then we are more compassionate towards people who are suffering from believing in it so much. People who die and come back, they know that this world is not real. Everyone who died and came back said the same thing. Millions of them, millions. And I made a study of NDEs too, because it was so necessary. When I had my NDE, I didn't want to share it. And when I told the doctor what I went through and I saw the light, he thought I was crazy. And they put me in a room. I had to wait there for days without air or until they figure out what they're going to do with me. But then they found out there was nothing wrong, not even physically. It's something that I had to go through. I call it, what did I call what happened to me?
Spiritual emergence.
Spiritual emergence, right. Yeah, and the voice said to me from the light, it said, stick with it, stay with it. In 5 days, you'll be okay. And I was. On the 6th day, actually, I was home with Sylvia, and then I was cycling, you know.
Burt, did you have a choice of trusting it or not to trust it? Or did you actually trusted it? That the voice,
I trusted it because once you experience something like an NDE, you will never the same. All the millions of people who have died and came back, they're never the same. It transforms you. It makes you see things you never saw before. And you know that the truth is the only thing that is true. And so despite what is happening, you hang on there, you know. And yeah, this is the way it is. There's a lot I don't understand, but I just allow it to happen because I know that what we call God is love itself. Total and absolute unconditional love. It does not punish. It does not judge you. Nothing. It simply wants to love you, and it wants you to be as perfect as possible so that you can enjoy.
Would you call your spiritual emergence a miracle?
Yes.
It's a miracle.
Yes, that's why
Right?
about the Course in Miracles,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful, and it came in the fifth dimension. That's what Jesus gave us as a gift. It took 7 years to write it, the book, didn't it? So, yeah. And it gets more beautiful every time I go into it. So Yeah.
I have a question. Prior to your spiritual emergence, did you said you knew it was a spiritual emergence. Had you prayed for to know God, or had you been involved in deeper meditation than normal? Had you just overcome a belief
That's
that you've
very
been holding
that's-
tight for a long time?
That's very good. Yeah, it came as an answer to many questions I had been asking.
Mhm.
Why is it taking so long? And so something happened that I needed the experience to go through. You know, yeah, that's very good.
So did you
Thank
pray to
you.
see God? Because some people who have NDEs actually recognize that they had a prayer just prior
I
to
never,
their
I
accident.
did
So-
not see God, no,
Mhm.
but I saw the light,
Mhm.
and the light actually had a
Mhm.
voice which
Mhm.
talked inside me,
Mhm.
and it said, "Don't do anything. Within 4 or 5 days, you'll be okay. You'll be back to normal." So, and that was it. I believed it completely.
Mhm.
I told Sylvia, my wife then, and I said, "Let's go home." And
Oh, see, the Course calls, it says that a miracle is the earthly version or within the dream of a revelation, because a revelation is so intensely personal that there's no actual words for it. But
Yeah.
in the world, a miracle shows up in the place of that.
that's very good,
Yeah.
honey, very good.
In that case
Yeah.
of yours.
Miracles are
Yeah.
happening all the
Mhm.
time. There's been so many miracles in my life. Do I have time? Yeah.
It's
To
just before
mention-
5.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned a little miracle here. It's
Yeah,
not
we have a
little,
couple.
it's a big miracle. I I retired from giving satsangs, not so long ago. I'm 88 now. So how long ago was that when
A
I
few
did?
years ago, I'm not sure how long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I wanted to retire,
Yeah,
and,
maybe.
but I became blind and I needed help. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if I can meet someone who loves the Course in Miracles? Because it's one thing I totally believe in. It's miraculous in itself. And then I think it was about a year later, maybe not that long, you wrote me a letter and you
Mhm.
said, "Burt, are you still giving satsangs?" And I said, "No, I'm retiring now."
And
I
you
said, "But let's go for lunch."
Yeah, you said I only do A Course in Miracles now. That's what you replied.
Yeah, right.
And I thought perfect, because
Yeah,
that's
and then when she told me that she loves the Course, I said, "Wow,
Mhm.
okay." So that's it.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
And now you're back doing it.
Yeah, and yeah, you
You're getting
Thank you.
younger every day now.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't see, but it's not that big a thing. And Suzy believes very strongly that in time my eyes are going to return back. I'm going to be seeing again. So, and I believe that it's something I need to learn and go through. But if I fight it or reject it or struggle against it, then I'm not learning anything, am I? Yeah. Life is beautiful and it is love itself. Okay.
Great. Thank
Very
you
great.
again, Burt
Thank
and
you.
Suzy.